Hello YouTubers, I hope you're having a fantastic day today, and I hope you felt super healthy as you were clicking on this video. Pregnancy is a woman's superpower. It is magical enough all on its own. So let's discuss the magic and miracle of implantation-hCG, the placenta, the umbilical cord, the amniotic fluid, chromosomes and genes, and stem cells. The human body is comprised of more than 200 types of cells, and every one of these cell types arises from the zygote, the single cell that forms when an egg is fertilized by a sperm. Within a few days, that single cell divides over and over again until it forms a blastocyst, a hollow ball of 150 to 200 cells that give rise to every single cell type a human body needs to thrive and survive, including the umbilical cord and the placenta that nourishes the developing fetus inside of the mother's womb. According to in vitro fertilization procedures, all that is technically needed for conception to occur outside of the female body is an egg, sperm, and sperm fluid. Cervical fluid is just a plus when it occurs inside of the female body. Before and after conception, the potential baby needs a whole array of hormones and chemical concoctions to continue growing and thriving. So let's cover the miracle of implantation. The earliest implantation can occur is 6 days past ovulation. After 10 to 12 days, if no implantation has occurred, then the progesterone levels start to drop, resulting in menstruation. Late implantation usually results in miscarriage due to the progesterone levels dropping. For every day after 10 days past ovulation, the risk of miscarriage increases significantly with those implanting after 10 days past ovulation, having up to an 85% chance of miscarriage. Depending on the individual woman, the latest an embryo can implant is 14 days past ovulation, depending on that woman's individual progesterone levels on that particular day. 6 to 10 days past ovulation is the average time span an embryo decides to implant into the uterine lining. Your hormone level literally only supports conception and implantation during this short time frame. A period signals a new cycle and no conception. The unfertilized egg will then be sloughed off with the uterine lining during menstruation. So let's take a deeper look into some of the misleading information going around in the cryptic pregnancy community regarding this. It is said in the cryptic pregnancy community that the baby can take its time to anchor itself or stabilize itself within the womb. A zygote that fails to implant after 14 days past ovulation will not be viable. The zygote can only survive for so long before it absolutely has to implant to continue growing. A fetus or embryo taking weeks or months to anchor itself or implant within the mother's womb is complete fiction. It is also said in the cryptic pregnancy community that a single pregnancy can result in absorption of the entire fetus with or without bleeding. This is something that depends entirely on the woman's perception and memory of what happened. Often she's emotional if she does experience bleeding during pregnancy. And so her memory can falter or she can become overwhelmed, leaving out important details. In a multiple pregnancy with 2 or more babies, when one baby is not viable, it can be absorbed completely, but more often than not, the mother will experience some sort of bleeding. She will go to the doctor, and that's how she will discover that she's lost a baby. In a single pregnancy, depending on the gestation of that particular baby, if it were to become deceased, some of the remaining body parts would be sloughed off when the mother's monthly cycle returned. So the entire fetus being absorbed without any bleeding is still a subject up for debate, and I am open to any comments or questions in this video, if you have any regarding the absorption of an entire fetus without any bleeding. But even in early miscarriages, heavy bleeding and cramping are often the first signs. Bleeding itself indicates removal of unwanted material from the body by the body, meaning that the start of your monthly cycle promotes detox and possible removal of remains of a non-viable conception. Experience of any bleeding during pregnancy could be a sign that something is wrong or that something is not right. Experiencing spotting during the luteal phase can be a sign of implantation itself. Any bleeding later in pregnancy could be a major sign that the pregnancy is not viable or that the mother has fertility complications. So now let's cover the wonderful facts of HCG. In a real cryptic pregnancy, it's said that the pregnant woman experiences little to slow rising HCG. In a diluted cryptic pregnancy, it is said that the woman probably won't ever test positive with urine or in blood. So, how much HCG is really needed to sustain a healthy pregnancy? Let's review. HCG is a placental hormone initially secreted by cells from the implanting embryo during week 2, supporting the ovarian corpus luteum, which in turn supports the endometrial lining and therefore maintains the pregnancy. But how much HCG is really needed to sufficiently support the corpus luteum? HCG helps keep your pregnancy going. It also affects the development of your baby, the fetus. More HCG is released in a multiple pregnancy, such as in twins or triplets, much more than in a single pregnancy itself. Less HCG is released if the fertilized egg implants in a place other than the uterus, such as in the fallopian tube, known as an ectopic pregnancy. So how much HCG is really needed? For each woman in each pregnancy, it is completely different. The amount of HCG needed to sustain and maintain the healthy progression is different. The variable in which this particular hormone increases is so contrasting from one pregnancy to another and one woman to another. Also, the value the particular lab center reports as positive differs from lab to lab, so it is important to know that information. So, for example, a woman who is 12 weeks pregnant could have a value of 270,000 HCG, and her pregnancy is progressing healthily. There's no reason for the doctors to suspect anything wrong. And then you take another woman who was 12 weeks pregnant, and she could be at 12,000 HCG, and her pregnancy is progressing just fine, no complications. It is important that the number is increasing, and not so much what the actual number is. So it is my individual theory on HCG is that the woman's individual activity level, diet, metabolism, nutrient resources, toxin level, thyroid balance, stress level, hydration level, all of these things affect the HCG levels in pregnancy. Again, this is just my theory. This is not anything that I've found in any scientific proof. I just think that those things affect how the HCG levels rise during a woman's individual pregnancy, and that's why it's so different from woman to woman and from pregnancy to pregnancy, because it all depends on her individual activity level, diet, metabolism, nutrient resources, toxin level, thyroid balance, stress level, hydration level. These all change throughout your life. So I think that's why it depends on at what point in time you got pregnant and how much resources you had that affect how your HCG level rises. But again, that's just my theory. It is important to remember that the values of the lab you do your blood test at differ from lab to lab, so you do want to go over and review those values. And then HCG values are still a subject up for debate. I'm still thoroughly researching this subject for future videos. So if you have any comments or any any information that is pertinent to HCG, please link it in the comments of this video. So now it's time to cover the beautiful placenta. The placenta is a temporary organ. The placenta is an organ that provides the transfer of oxygen and carbon dioxide as well as nutrients and wastes between the mother and the fetus. So if we took this cryptic pregnancy theory of a baby in utero that is slow growing due to lack of blood flow to the placenta and still surviving and applied it to reality, it would mean that toxins are building up around the baby in the amniotic fluid. If blood flow is compromised going to the baby, then it is most certainly compromised going from the baby. This hypothetical cryptic pregnancy baby is dealing with lack of nutrients and major toxic overload. So can someone please explain to me how these circumstances don't result in an unhealthy baby or a baby with deficiencies? How do these particular circumstances result in the delivery of a healthy baby? It's a serious question. So now let's cover the connection, the umbilical cord. In the cryptic pregnancy community, it is the theory that an incarcerated, retroflexed, or retroverted uterus compromises the blood flow between mother and baby, baby to placenta, and placenta to mother. The result of this blocked blood flow is a slow-growing baby and a 2 to 5 year pregnancy. The umbilical cord is a tube that connects you to your baby during pregnancy. It has 3 blood vessels, 1 vein that carries food and oxygen from the placenta to your baby, and 2 arteries that carry waste from your baby back to the placenta. A substance called Wharton's jelly cushions and protects these blood vessels. The umbilical cord starts to form at about 4 weeks of pregnancy and usually grows to be about 22 inches long. A normal, healthy umbilical cord is filled with Wharton's jelly, a soft, gelatinous substance that protects the blood vessels inside of the cord. This substance helps to protect the cord against compression, as well as true knots, which can occur in around 1% of births as a result of the baby's normal movements within the womb. So an incarcerated uterus would not compromise the actual umbilical cord due to position because it is built to be pinched, squeezed, knotted, unless the umbilical cord is too short, but even then it is a very resourceful tube. This is why it grows 22 inches long. Any complications affecting the umbilical cord's blood supply and toxin removal directly negatively affect the fetus's development, health, and proper growth while in utero, regardless of the uterus's position. So now let's cover what covers the baby in the womb, the amniotic fluid. The amniotic sac or bag inside of the uterus holds the growing baby, and it is filled with amniotic fluid. This sac forms about 12 days after getting pregnant. After about 20 weeks of pregnancy, your baby's urine makes up most of this fluid. If the cryptic baby is not getting sufficient amounts of nutrients due to lack of blood flow, then they are not making urine. How does this lack of urine output affect the amniotic fluid's level? How does the lack of urine output affect baby's kidney development, hydration, brain function? Amniotic fluid is also something easily seen and measured in an early ultrasound scan. So now let's cover the materials needed to make a baby a baby. Chromosomes and genes. Chromosomes are the thread-like structure present within a central part, the nucleus of living cells. Chromosomes are composed of DNA and therefore are the physical form in which our genes exist. A gene is a defined piece of genetic information that contains the instructions necessary for a particular function of a cell or cell processes to manufacture a particular protein. More than 50% of miscarriages in early stages of pregnancy are due to abnormalities of the chromosomes. So How have these women experiencing a cryptic pregnancy, how have they mutated their DNA in order to overwrite the bodily functions of a miscarriage? If these babies are really that nutrient deprived that they are growing so slowly for 2 to 5 years, how is this not directly resulting in chromosomal abnormalities? How is the idea of nutrient deficiency and hCG deficiency not resulting in miscarriage or disabilities and major long-term complications? How are these women overriding their particular genes in order to carry a pregnancy for years? How are these cryptic babies overriding their mother's genes in order to not be miscarried? How does the baby overwrite its own genes in order to slowly grow without any negative side effects due to restricted blood flow, limited nutrients, restricted oxygen, and no toxin removal, and physical limitations? How is this baby doing that? Why are so many babies born with permanent disabilities if something like this really does happen and is actually possible? Why didn't it happen to those babies? Who makes the decision? Is it the woman's body? The baby? God? Why is this particular baby cryptic and not the other babies? Why? The building blocks. First, let's cover how they work before we explore how it does not work in supporting a protracted gestation. Stem cells are the body's raw materials, cells from which all other cells with specialized functions are generated. Under the right conditions, in the body or a laboratory, stem cells, divide to form more cells called daughter cells. These daughter cells either become new stem cells, self-renewal, or become specialized cells, which are a differentiation with more specific functions such as blood cells, brain cells, heart, muscle, or bone cells. No other cell in the body has the natural ability to generate new cell types. I repeat, no other cell in the body has the natural ability to generate new cell types. Only these daughter cells, stem cells. Each cell type has its own size and structure appropriate for its job, such as skin cells, for example, are small and compact, while nerve cells that enable you to wiggle your toes have long branching nerve cell fibers called axons that conduct electrical pulses. Regardless of their size or structure, all human cells start with these things in common: a nucleus that contains DNA, a cytoplasm, the liquid outside of the nucleus, and the cell membrane, the surface of the cell. Cells have to be able to communicate to work together in tissues and organs. With limited oxygen, nutrition, hydration, and toxin removal, how are these individual cells dividing and multiplying in order to create the physical body of the cryptic baby without any damaging effects? Pregnancy all by itself is miraculous, a completely miraculous process. It is a time when a woman should decide to make every effort to tune into her body, her mind, her soul, and the baby with the support of her surroundings. A woman's knowledge of pregnancy and birth is instinctual and should be very empowering. Pregnancy seems to be a time of heightened spiritual awareness for many women. It is a time when she actually makes the time to connect and listen to her body. It is a time when she begins noticing things she didn't previously notice about her health, body, physical ability, finances, surroundings, relationships, and lifestyle. It is a time of growth and transformation, a time for maturity and responsibility. It is a very unique and special superpower, all by itself. No need to make up new conditions, new complications, or spread propaganda about such a well-known natural occurrence such as pregnancy. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this clarified some things for some people about the details of what the cryptic pregnancy community is claiming to be fact. It is highly misleading and deceptive. I do plan on making a video about pregnancy tests and blood tests soon, so watch out for that in the next couple of weeks. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Be well, be healthy, but most importantly, have fun. Bye!